to life through art. A special exhibition's been organised in memory of the Cadeby main colliery, which closed 20 years ago. It'll see a special boat trip down the river, packed with pictures, sculptures and lights relating to coal mining. Rachel Horne is a budding artist and is also organising the event. She's pleased to be able to showcase the talents.
A lot of people think that there's not much like contemporary art stuff in Doncaster, but three of the artists that are exhibiting are from mining families and all based in Doncaster. So it's kind of a platform for us as artists as well as like celebrating the memory of our mining communities.
The woman who's put all this together, Rachel Horne, very young, very enthusiastic and I think very talented, and I'd like very much for you to give her a big hand.
I'm really nervous, but thank you all so much for coming. This means the absolute world to me. I've wanted to do something like this since I was about 18, so thank you all so much. We're going to arrive at Cadeby at 9 and we're going to pass some lights, and there's 20 lights there representing 20 years since Cadeby's closure. So when we arrive there, Kate's going to play a trumpet solo and Father Mac's going to do a prayer, and then we've got two speeches from Aidan Rave and Rodney Bickerstaffe, so it's going to be a really lovely night. Thank you all so much.
Contemplative future. Many times.
As we pass near what was Cadeby Pit, we remember not just those men who sacrificed their lives or gave their lives in the Cadeby disaster, but we need to remember also those men who, down through the years, with pit accidents, met their deaths down in the pits. We remember also the sacrifice of those who bear the scars of working down the pit, with all the diseases that were given to them because of their work there. We remember the sacrifice of the families who were scarred by their husbands, their brothers, their fathers working down the pit. We remember them and their sacrifice this evening. We call them before God and ask that we don't forget the supreme sacrifices that so many men and so many families have made down through the decades of the mining industry, not only in Cadeby but around the whole of South Yorkshire. We ask God to take care of them and grant them eternal peace and rest. Amen.
Thank you, Rachel, and good evening, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be, it's an honour actually to be asked to say a few words, and there will be a few words, don't worry, because there's a lot of food there to be eaten and a lot of beer downstairs to be drunk, I'm sure, but this is a really wonderful celebration. In many ways it would be disingenuous for me to come and talk about coal. Thanks to Mrs. Thatcher, there pretty much wasn't any coal mining when I left primary school, and thanks to Mr. Heseltine, there was even less when I left secondary school. But I think what perhaps Mrs. Thatcher and Mr. Heseltine didn't understand was that it was never about coal or coal mining. It was about people, and it was about communities. And those people in those communities had suffered great hardship, as Father's just rightly said. From 1902 and the bag muck strike that happened in Conisbrough and Deneby, when the people were evicted from their houses, through the industrial disputes in 72, and of course in 84, 85. And in particular, Cadeby suffered a great loss in 1912, when many men and boys were lost in a great explosion that took place. One great explosion, then the rescue workers went down, there was another explosion and more people were lost. So the sacrifice has been huge. It also happens that this is quite probably the last speech I'll ever do as councillor for Conisbrough and Deneby, because I stand down in a couple of weeks' time. And I think it's fitting actually that I'm speaking about something that's given me great strength over the 7 years that I've represented the people of Conisbrough and Deneby. Because it's that community and it's that community spirit that's driven me really, and driven this community since its inception. People of Conisbrough and Deneby, like the people of the mining communities right across the country, have never given up. They've had a lot of hardship to put up with. I've just talked about some of the strikes that they went through. They've had a lot of hardship since the pits closed, because it wasn't just about the jobs going, it was about the whole livelihood disappearing, about the friendships, about the communities. It was never about a political ideology or a fight for one thing or another. It was about what was doing right for each other, about looking out for each other, about that real community spirit, and that still exists. And it's something that's there, and it's tangible, and it's still happening. And it's great that we're able to still celebrate that, and that's why this is such a wonderful project, and I'm proud to be involved in it and have been involved in it. So I'd really just like to finish by saying, from a strike junior to a strike baby, well done, Rachel. This is a wonderful thing that you've done. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I'm sure there'll be many wonderful things that you'll do in the future. Thanks.
I'm Rodney Bickerstaffe. As always, I apologise for my first name. It's not my fault. Can I say this is only the second time I've been on a boat in 10 years. And if I suddenly have to rush towards the side, if I were, I'd clear out the way, because there's only one thing I'm going to be doing. First of all, I want to thank Rachel too, A, for the invite for me, B, for the event. I think you've written this up as an event, haven't you? It's been an entertainment, it's been an occasion. I've really enjoyed it. And I think we ought to put our hands together for those people, as one of my pals tonight has said, who try to represent in their own way the mining legacy, if you want, of this area. The people, the artists, you've looked at their paintings this evening, I think they deserve a round of applause for what they've done. And I want you to remember, I mean, this area, South Yorkshire, I love, absolutely love and adore. I thought it would be mentioned by Aidan about the history of this particular little patch, because he mentioned it to me earlier on anyway. That here, of course, up here at Conisbrough, at the castle, our great leader, Tony Blair's favourite book is Ivanhoe, whose opening lines go something like, between Sheffield and the present little market town of Doncaster, there lies a castle. And that's this area. We know that Scott wrote some of it, if not all of it, at Sprotborough, from where we just left. Not far from here is Barnborough, the place where Anne Cressica, anybody heard of Sir Thomas More, St Thomas More, man for all seasons? His son John married Anne Cressica from that village. Important little snippets of history. My worry is that this last 100 years will be forgotten in a few 100 years, and there's no reason why it should. The mining industry, the communities that Aidan has referred to, ought to be remembered. We've got people who will make paintings, we've got on the book, I know, poets, we've got people who write, but at the end of the day I want something rather more than that, and I really want to support what Rachel's doing in terms of the Ordnance Survey. And you might say, Rodney, what the hell are you talking about? But if they've got on a map, an Ordnance Survey map, here was a Roman fort, why, oh why should they not have signs and signals to show people, not just tourists, but anybody who wants to look at this area, that there were communities here that lived and breathed on the coal mining industry. And I know one of her particular aims is to try and get Ordnance Survey to accept that there'll be some marking system. And I certainly pledge myself to support that. It's a small enough thing, but I think it's an important thing, and I think it's a governmental thing, and I think that we can bring political pressure to bear on people, on the Ordnance Survey, Rachel, to ensure that places like Cadeby and Goldthorpe actually have marked on the maps that, if you want, not here be lions, but here be pits, and here be communities, and all the history that we've had. I'd be personally happy if it also talked about the skirmishes of the strike of 84-85. Almost certainly won't be there, but if they have little sites for battles in 1340 that I've never heard about, you know, why not have something about picket lines and things? I think that's unlikely to happen. Unlikely to happen. I'm going to be up in Scotland in a few days' time, unveiling a statue to Mick Magahey. Anybody remember Mick Magahey? Yeah. Mick Magahey, a friend of mine, Deputy President of the National Union of Mine Workers. It will be obviously the artistry of the person who sculpted it, but it will be a visual notification, if you want, in that area about one man and about the union that he stood for and about the mining industry. I think your attempts to mark the coal mining industry in this area and hopefully across the country will be something that will be successful. I think tonight could be the start of that. I don't know whether we can get names and addresses and follow through, bringing pressure to bear on councils throughout South Yorkshire, and then onwards and upwards if you want. It's been a great trip. I've got through without actually vomiting. I was a bit unhappy that Aidan mentioned Margaret Thatcher, and I was a bit bloody surprised to find that we'd actually got a painting of her on the, or a photograph of her on the boat. I don't know which artist did that, but I hope they don't mind. I just glanced my eyes across it. I know we're supposed to forgive people. I've almost agreed that the day that she died, I've actually been asked, and I've already completed, by the way, a television programme. The day that she dies, I will be actually on the 6 o'clock news saying what I thought about it. It's already in the can. And if they put in what I said that she did to the mining communities, at least that will be one visual marker, but obviously you'll have to take the news of that day. When she goes, I don't know, rejoice, rejoice. That's probably the wrong thing to say. But she destroyed the mining communities. What she couldn't destroy is the spirit of the mining communities. And one way or another that will live on. And I think tonight's event is another way of ensuring that the next generation and the generation after that remember what it was all about. So thanks very, very much. Look after yourselves.